Good evening and a very warm welcome to Television Tonga's news package for this evening. Making headlines, His Majesty King Leopold VI gives his first address at the 68th session of the United Nations General Assembly. In the same meeting, Honourable Prime Minister Lord Duverneau suffered a mild stroke. And Tonga Fire Services marked the closing address of the first Cadet Officers Training. These and more stories later on in this bulletin. I'm Fatai Fenga with your news for tonight. His Majesty King Leopold VI delivered his first address at the 68th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. In a statement from the Prime Minister's office, this is the first time for the King to address this assembly as head of state. Sin Latu tells you more.
Information from the Prime Minister's office adds that His Majesty sincerely congratulated the President of the 68th session upon his election to the presidency of the General Assembly and assured the President that the Tongan delegation's full support and cooperation under his leadership. Furthermore, the King highlighted Tonga embracing the timely theme for the general debate, which is the post-2015 development agenda setting the stage. This also includes a set of 6 thematic issues of focus for high-level events and thematic debates during the 68th session. The King assured the Assembly that Tonga joins other small island developing states in affirming that priorities in the outline of this year's theme, with increased cooperation among United Nations member states, which would be shaped on the outcome of the 2014 Third International Conference on SIDS that will be held in Samoa. The head of state also pledged the Tonga's support of the proposed high-level event that would address the needs of women, youth, and civil society and contribute to development goals, and that Tonga applauds the high-level event on the contribution of human rights and rule of law to the post-2015 framework and hails the 20th anniversary of Vienna Conference on Human Rights. The King noted earlier this year, Tonga submitted its second Universal Periodic Review, which was adopted by the Human Rights Council. The next review for Tonga is scheduled for 2017-2018. He added that the high-level event centering on South-South and triangular cooperation and examining how information and communications technology is appreciated as adding value to the realization of development targets. His Majesty also told the gathering about Tonga hosting the annual Pacific Islands chapter of the Internet Conference, PIC ISOC, earlier this month to celebrate the emergence of high-speed Internet connectivity in Tonga. He said the conference showcased the achievements of the Pacific region to access opportunities for Internet users and how Tonga can best derive its own investment strategy for the new cable submarine Internet systems. His Majesty also highlighted in his address that energy is the golden thread that connects economic growth, increased social equity, and an environment that allows the world to thrive. Before ending his address, the head of state told the Assembly that Tonga endorses the views expressed in the Marshall Islands communique, that is, the outcome document of the annual meeting of Pacific Island Forum leaders held earlier this month. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sini Latu.
The Honourable Prime Minister Lord Duverneau has suffered a mild stroke but is in a stable condition. The Honourable Acting Prime Minister Lord Ma'afu revealed this to the House in today's parliamentary deliberations. The Acting Prime Minister Lord Ma'afu appealed to members of the House and people of Tonga to pray for the fast recovery of the Prime Minister. Lord Ma'afu told the House that the doctor treating the Prime Minister assured him that the Prime Minister is in a stable condition. Prior his mild stroke, the Prime Minister completed representing Tonga at the 68th plenary session of the United Nations General Assembly. A report from the Prime Minister office says Lord Duverneau joined United Nations Development Programme Administrator Helen Clark and World Bank Group President Jim Young King in stepping up efforts to accelerate progress towards meeting the Millennium Development Goals. Tonga was chosen from the Pacific to deliver remarks alongside heads of state, governments from Bangladesh, Costa Rica, Ghana, as well as high-level representatives from the Republic of Korea, Japan, and the European Union. In his keynote remarks, the Prime Minister says Tonga has achieved good progress with most of the MDGs, which includes eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, promoting gender equality and empowerment of women, including the combat of non-communicable diseases (NCDs), are MDGs goals that are now prioritized as focus of Tonga's MDG acceleration plan. Tonga has demonstrated strong leadership in achieving the MDGs by endorsing in Cabinet the MDG acceleration plan for Tonga to reduce NCDs. Many United Nations and agencies and MDG experts from the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat commented that Tonga is to be congratulated in securing a speaking slot at the UN event over the rest of the United Nations member countries, saying that it is a highly recognized achievement at a global level. The success of Tonga's process is owed to an expert group chaired by the Minister of Education and Training, Honourable Dr. Anatau Fe'olungaki.
The acting Prime Minister, Lord Ma'afu, told the House in response to concerns raised about it from some parliamentarians. These concerns were collected from parliamentary visits in different constituencies. According to Lord Ma'afu, the Marine Department has been seeking for funds to help extend their project on sea flash light signaling maintenance. Speaking on the issue of cemeteries or lands where cemeteries are located, Lord Ma'afu also told members of the House that these lands belong to the public to use as no one owns any of the cemeteries. In today's deliberations, parliamentary discussions surrounds Tongatapu No. 5's report on his parliamentary visit. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sinilato.
The police have confirmed a fatal road accident over the weekend. The Deputy Police Commissioner, Sokai Matopuaka, told Radio and Television Tonga News this morning that the incident occurred on Saturday near the Captain Cook's Monument in the Eastern District. Police are still investigating into the incident. 3 local cadet officers from the Tonga Fire Services have successfully completed the first ever cadet officers training course. A special program was held last Friday to mark the completion of this program. Linda Filiai was there and filed this report.
The Honourable Minister of Police, Prison and Fire Services, Josifatu Tafaiva, presenting certificate and prizes for 3 cadet officers who have completed the training. The 3 officers were Roman Vaihu, Fetokai Toki and Felemi Tondonu, whom obtained bachelor in different educational field. The Honourable Minister thanked the cadet officer for their commitment throughout the training. He says this will not benefit themselves but will also help Tonga Fire Services and the country in general. Words cannot express how grateful I am of your achievement. You have accomplished the objectives of this 13 weeks training. Today you have reaped the fruits of your hard labor. However, the Deputy Fire Commissioner Viliami Tuihalamake says the goal started in Tonga and ended with a 3-week trainings at South Australia Metropolitan Fire Services. The aim of this training is to change the personal attitude of this cadet officer to follow the Tonga Fire Services orders and work accordingly. The department has now witnessed a great achievement made by this officer and they will contribute to several developments in our operation. Meanwhile, a demonstration was also conducted by the cadet officer to the guest. The police minister also stresses the importance to recruit more staff for Tonga Fire Services, especially throughout the islands. For Television Tonga News, I'm Linda Filiai.
The Tonga Police Force joins other Pacific countries in marking Police Remembrance Day, which is marked on September 29th every year. Tonga Police hosted a special program today to mark the significance of Police Remembrance Day. In today's event, the Tonga Police paid tribute and honoured police officers who were either serving the force or had retired and had passed away within the past 12 months. Linda Filiai reports.
The guest of honour at the event was the Honourable Minister of Police, Prison Fire Services and Inland Revenue, Josifatu Tafaiva. In his speech, he says the three police officers who had passed away during the year were a good example of officers who had done their best in carrying out their duties to the country and their workplace. Speaking to Television Tonga News, the Deputy Police Commissioner Lauai Tutuponiua says today's event is to remember the officer who passed away recently. The main idea is for all police officers to get together and remember the lives of those who had passed away but has left behind lesson that needs to be taught to police officers. A 1-minute silence was observed to remember police officers who have passed away, and officer also wore a blue ribbon. Meanwhile, the Deputy Police Commissioner added the importance of doing things whilst you're able to do so. I think that today's message is to improve our working environment while we still can. The three officers remembered today are late Assistant Chief Inspector Sione Kipsoni Latu, Chief Inspector Masinsato Ipulotu, and Deputy Commissioner Atilaite Koloale Osoakai. Also at today's event was the Australian High Commissioner to Tonga, Brett Altem, New Zealand High Commissioner to Tonga, Mark Talbot, police officers and families of officers who had passed away. For Television Tonga News, I'm Linda Filiai.
The magistrate Similoni Tokalau has delayed 3 different manslaughter trials this morning. In the first manslaughter case, 18-year-old Debola Vai Foliaki was allegedly charged for the death of a 4-year-old boy at Hateho earlier this month. She's been allegedly charged for manslaughter, driving without a license, and negligent driving. Her trial will be held on October 15th. In a second manslaughter case, 2 men, Dave Isoa Kanongata and Taulani Langoia, were allegedly accused of manslaughter. They appeared in court this morning for the death of Kulisi Kalongata'a from Hofua. This occurred inside a cement mixing machine at Sapota Whahau. Their trial has been delayed until October 14th. The third manslaughter trial in court referred to the death of a 14-year-old girl last month. 3 people have been allegedly charged for her death. The accused are Moala Tomohuni, who's charged for aiding manslaughter, and Fifita and Tomasi Ofa, who are charged for manslaughter. The 3 accused are expected to appear in a magistrate court on October 14th. And that's the local news. Pacific is up next.